Hello, everyone. This is Brother Stephen Mustard here in Zimbabwe, Africa, and I want to thank you for taking a few minutes to join us for this From the Field update. I'm grateful for your prayers and encouragement and your faithfulness as you've partnered with us in the work of the gospel. I want to start by saying this podcast, I'm hoping, is going to be a platform to be able to help keep our supporters more informed, and just another way to be in communication with our supporters as sort of a supplement to our bi-monthly prayer letters that we send out. Again, if you would like to receive those prayer letters, you can send me an email. If you listen to this and want to receive those, you can send me an email, and I'll add you to our mailing list. Otherwise, you can subscribe to this podcast, and you can find ministry updates on this platform as well. And so this week, I'm just going to walk through our most recent prayer letter that we just sent out and go into a little bit of detail, some of the things that are found in that prayer letter, and then we'll wrap up with a couple prayer requests and some ways that you can pray for our family and the work here in Zimbabwe. We, for a little over a year now, we've been traveling to the Chicheche region of Zimbabwe to work with a group of pastors and church leaders. I met them last year, and I've been going up there to work with these guys about every 8 to 10 weeks. And when I go, I normally spend nearly a full week with them, and we study the scriptures. There's always questions that come up and different things, so we end up discussing a lot of their pastoral responsibilities. We spend a lot of time answering questions from the book of 1st and 2nd Timothy and Titus, and at the end of it all, it always ends up just being a big encouragement to each other, and not just me encouraging those men, but those men encouraging me. And so we really enjoy it, and it's a time for us to be able to invest in other people in that kind of way. And during our most recent trip, we had between 24 and 26 leaders in attendance each day. And then something that we did this time that we've not done in the past, this was the first time that we've ever done this. In the evenings, we had a children's VBS, and we had over 100 children each night for that VBS. And many of those kids, they devoted themselves to learning Bible verses. Each day we would give them memory verses, and they would go home and they would work through the night memorizing those. And then if they came back the next day, we basically each child. Let me back up a bit. Each child that came, we registered them. We took their name and got their number, and they were given a letter and a number based on their age and all of that. And that is how we kept track of what verses they had memorized, so that at the end of the week, when it came time to give out prizes, we would know. We had a record of who had memorized what, how many verses they had memorized. And man, a lot of these kids had memorized between 10 and 15 verses by the end of the week, and that's a huge accomplishment for most of those. A lot of those children probably had never. Maybe they've heard people quote Bible verses around, but they had probably never been challenged to really memorize anything like that. So that was a blessing to see those kids memorize those verses and then be excited about that. We played games with them, we did Bible lessons, and all of that. So it was just a really, really good, fun time to be with those kids. And I just ask that you'd pray for fruit that would remain, not just with the children, but also those church leaders that we work with in that area. It's a tough area that they're in. They don't get a lot of rain, but they are close to the Save River, so they do. Their crops do fairly well, but still, it's not an easy easy region, and it's typically a lot more drier, and the temperatures are a lot more hot in that area. But just pray for them, pray that they would grow spiritually, and they would continue to allow us to make an investment in them. And we want to go back and encourage them and teach them as long as they will allow us, and just encourage them in that way. Also, there's a young man from Solid Rock Baptist Church over in Chipinge. His name is Victor, and Victor and his wife and their child, the newly born child, they will be relocating here to Bulawayo at the end of November to help us in the ministry here. Vic, we call him Vic. He recently spent 2 months with us for a survey trip, and it was during that time that the Lord worked in his heart and made it evident to him that he needed to come this side and help in the work here. And so keep them in your prayers as they prepare to make this transition. Vic is really involved there in Chipinge in the church, but this is something that the Lord's put into his heart, and he was here with us back in April when we did the campaign, and it was really during that time that the Lord started working on him with this. And so since that time, he come back and did the survey trip, and so he's excited. He's looking forward to the transition, and he's looking forward to helping in the ministry here. And with him coming, I'll come back to him coming here in just a moment. But when we arrived in Bulawayo back in December of last year, we what the Lord had put in our hearts was to just kind of focus mainly on the low density side of town. Basically, our city's divided into pretty much two sections. You've got low density, and then you've got high density. Of course, you got the CBD, the Central Business District. But what was in our hearts when we came was to focus mostly on, at least what we felt like the Lord was leading us to do at the time, was to focus and spend the majority of our time focused on a very specific group within the low density side of town, which is basic. That's our Jerusalem. And at the beginning, and just coming in, being new to a city, this is also the area of the city that we live in, and so I thought that it was very foundational to the longevity of our ministry here, if we're going to base out of this city, for us to establish ourselves here in the city, get to know people, get to know the some families in our area before we just started stretching ourselves too broadly. And the easy thing to do is move to a place and then just get so busy with everything else that you fail to meet your neighbors and get to know the people on your street and things like that. And really what I've found through this is that's really what the Lord uses to start shaping ministry and things like that. And it helps make connections in other areas and other places of the country just by taking the time to get to know people. And so, over this last year, as we've tried to just get to know our Jerusalem, get to know the people in our city, in our part of town, in our suburb, we've declined a lot of invitations to go and preach and teach in some of the other areas of the city and even the rural areas, not because we weren't interested, but I really had a conviction to stay put right here where the Lord had first placed us in our city. And, with Brother Vic coming to join us here in Bulawayo, I believe that this is the time where the Lord is enabling us to extend our reach outside of our Jerusalem without abandoning the relationships that we've already started to cultivate and the progress that we've made so far. We don't have a church yet, but that's not to say that we've not been, ministering to people, communicating the gospel with people, and, we've made so much progress, even though, sometimes you're not able to see it. or other people can't see it, but we've made progress. We know people. We know, we know our way around the city. We have a good orientation of how things work here, and I felt like that was very necessary, at least in this initial stage of getting settled here in the city. So with Vic coming, I think that this is the perfect time, and it's just perfect timing of the Lord that's going to allow us now to be able to put our feet into other parts of the city and even rural areas, because we've got that second man now that can help sustain and maintain whatever kind of stuff that we get started, and it's just going to allow us to multiply the work that we're doing rather than divide it. And I really feel like if I would have spread myself too thin in this first year of ministry, it would have divided what we've tried to do, rather than now we have something that we can build on and multiply from. And so I'm thankful that Vic's coming, and I think that this is going to give us an opportunity to reach into communities in the high density suburbs and people groups that are through our rural areas of Matabele land that have never heard the gospel. And this year, 2025, I've remained in the book of Luke and the book of Acts for my personal Bible reading time and personal devotions. And in Acts 13, Paul is so desirous to reach this group of people, the Jews. That's who he's wanting to reach, and he's been steadfast in trying to reach them, and they just don't want to hear what he has to say. They, in most ways, they reject the message of the gospel that he's trying to bring to them. And God brings him to that point in Acts chapter 13, and Paul says, "Lo, we turn to the Gentiles." And Paul knew that there were those who had not yet heard, who were waiting to hear. And, in that same spirit, we believe that now is the time that the Lord is opening the door for us to take the truth to those who are still waiting, while at the same time continuing the work that has already been started here. And so we just ask that you'd pray for us as we take these next steps of obedience. Change is not always easy, but it is exciting to be able to follow the Lord and His leading as we prepare to branch out. And so we're excited for Vic to come, and it's just going to be another way that the Lord is going to allow us to enlarge the place of our tent and reach into more areas, reach into more of Zimbabwe and our area. In other news, we're arranging meetings for our 2026 furlough. We've been on the mission field now since 2021, and we started deputation in 2019. Went to the field initially in 2021, and then now we're here in Zim. So we've never taken a formal furlough to report back to our supporters. So I think the time is coming on us, and I believe that this is what the Lord would have us to do next year. We'll also, my wife is expecting a child, and she's due to give birth in February, so we'll have the baby here in Zim, and then once we get the paperwork and passports and all of that stuff, we'll travel back to the U.S. for a few months so that our families can meet their new, all the grandparents can meet their new grandchild. And then also we'll spend some time reporting into other churches. And so if you're a pastor listening to this and you'd like for us to visit your church, feel free to reach out to schedule a date. We already have several meetings scheduled, but you're obviously just reach out and we'll get you on the calendar. Pray for an upcoming trip that we've got planned to Zambia. We'll be leaving out and headed up there for roughly 2.5 to 3 weeks. I'm going to be assisting with a revival meeting and a Bible school module. And it's going to be a long drive, a lot of time in the vehicle, so pray for my wife and kids. We're excited to be able to go, and it's an exciting time for us as a family to just be able to serve the Lord here in Southern Africa, and the Lord just keeps opening doors for us, and we try to walk with obedience, in faith, believe in God that He's going to give the increase for the labor that we're putting in. If you've ever tried to grow a garden, or if you've ever tried to do anything that is planting and harvesting, you don't plant the seed and harvest it in the same day. And that's kind of how we see our work here where we are. We sow a lot of seed, we do a lot of cultivating, we do a lot of relationship building, and we're trusting the Lord to give the increase. And in the meantime, we just want to remain faithful to what He's given us to do. And so we thank you for your prayers, your continued support, and we're thankful for your partnership in the gospel. Please subscribe if you would like to continue to receive these updates. And again, if you'd like to be on our mailing list for our prayer letter updates, you can also send me an email at mustards2africa@gmail.com. That's mustards2africa@gmail.com. So please feel free to reach out at any time, and we thank you so much again. God bless.